Hello, the internet. Hello, world. Hello, people who have stumbled across this website entirely by chance. What I'm going to try to do over the next few minutes is explain what I think is happening in Labour, a little bit of historical context, and indeed where I think it might be going. In order to do that, I need to make a few things plain right from the very outset. First of all, I'm a politics teacher, and I deal in generalizations. If you've got a problem with that, I fully accept it. Other websites are available. This is what I'm going to do. And let's start off with my very, very first generalization. And that is that we can take any political party and essentially break it into three different tiers of management or organization. Leadership, officer class, grassroots. And in the case of a political party, we can argue that the leadership is, that's pretty fair enough. That's the leaders. The officer class are those parliamentary MPs, and grassroots will be our card-carrying members. So, Labour Party, here we are, pre-1994, a nice red bloc, a nice solid bloc of Loserville. In 1979, the Callaghan administration lost its vote of confidence and then lost the subsequent election. Majority of 44, that had increased to 144 in 83, it decreased slightly to 101 in 87. But then this is really the defining moment. This is one of the defining moments of recent Labour history. This was the election they were supposed to win. However, the reason they lost was because while Kinnock affected the mannerisms and the outward appearance of a neoliberal party, the party itself was quite clearly still Social Democrat. We still had Clause 4, and the other wider economic policies were evidently social democratic. And so when the voters went in, they took a look at it and they said, you know what, I'm really not prepared to go with that. And so they returned the Conservatives with a vastly reduced majority, but a majority nonetheless. And once again, Labour was cast out into the wilderness. This time, of course, we had John Smith, and he died, unfortunately, and he was replaced by this young, up-and-coming MP, Tony Blair. And Tony Blair had a very, very simple thesis, and it was you can't change society from the opposition benches. But unfortunately, you need to win the election first. Anyway, he managed that in 1997 with a majority of 178. This is the line of argument that I touched upon earlier. You can't change society from the opposition benches. If you want to win an election, then you need to get the people who voted for Thatcher to vote for you. And if you want to get the middle class to vote for you, you need the neoliberal policies instead of your social democratic policies. Those have got to go. And as a result of that, all of which was adopted, and we had a new Labour Party, and they won the election. Once again, leadership, officer class, and grassroots. On this occasion, we see the leadership drifting out to the right. Now, because they were able to present a well-organised and well-disciplined and effective and successful team that wound up winning elections, they were able to drag a lot of the officer class out there with them. Not least because these guys owed their jobs to the leaders. These were the new influx of bare blades that came in 97. And as a result of which, they were very much prepared to sign up to the New Labour project, and they enjoyed it very, very much. It's worth pointing out that at the same time, there was a fair number of people who were prepared to sign up to the New Labour experiment. And the first few years of the New Labour were fantastic. But it was no doubt that the Conservative administration was tired, it was exhausted, it had run out of ideas. And so people, by and large, were not that sad to see it go. Now, the next issue is how was the Labour Party able to pull that off? Largely through very, very heavy centralised control. New Labour was controlled by a number of key figures, and everything that went through the New Labour machine went through these particular figures. And again, I'm dealing in generalisation, and simplification here, but this is a working model, and I think it's more or less accurate. The key point, of course, is that when Blair went, by that time, Mandelson had been in and out more times than he was playing this sort of political hokey-cokey. Campbell was on his way out, Powell was on his way out, and that rather left Brown trying to man what was evidently a sinking ship by himself with the inevitable hilarious consequences. So he lasted until from 2007 to 10, after which we had Miliband. And this is, again, very important, largely because they got the wrong Miliband. There were changes to the leadership mechanism after Miliband, the point being that Miliband had won largely because of the bloc vote from the trade unions. The leader who was supposed to win was David Miliband, However, because Ed was slightly to the left of his brother, the unions decided to chuck their lot in with Ed, with the inevitable hilarious results. After that, they changed the system. This is part of a wholesale renegotiation of the relationship with the unions, both looking at financial relationship and the voting relationship. And again, cutting through an awful lot of extraneous detail here, the new system was introduced, which was more or less one man, one vote. This saw a huge shift of power from the unions to the grassroots, and the significance of that really can't be overstated. Having said that, there were safety mechanisms built in. The idea was that only proper candidates would be able to make the ballot. There was a threshold of about 15%, I think, of MPs who had to vote for the candidate to get them onto the ballot. The idea being that very few candidates were supposed to be able to cross that particular threshold. It didn't work. The other thing that didn't work was that they didn't take into account the idea of carpetbaggers, the infiltrationists, those new members who suddenly swamped the system and started to sign up for membership so they could vote in this election. While I'm sure there were some carpetbaggers and infiltrationists, I think to blame the entire fandango on these guys is unfair. I think the key point here is that there were an awful lot of hardcore socialists who were still there. There were a lot of people who had clung around waiting for the social democratic revolution that had never come through. And so when the opportunity arose to restructure the Labour Party, they swung into action. And that happened when Miliband left, creating that vacuum at the top. By this time, the November violets, if you will, they had already gone. And so we were right back here. There's no leadership. The officer class is still out on the right. And we need a leadership election. And so here we go. Now, Corbyn, as I said, only made the ballot in the last 10 minutes. He was not supposed to be there. It was really supposed to be a carve-up between Burnham and Yvette Cooper. Didn't happen that way because of the sheer weight of numbers down here at the bottom. It was basically this lot, the grassroots, against the officer corps. And in that sense, it was never really going to be a particular fair fight. And this was the result. We had a 53% return for Corbyn, and he was duly elected. So what we've got is this. We've got the new leader coming in, except he's not over there, he's actually over here. At the same time, we've got the influx of new members, some of whom may be infiltrationists, but I think that the overwhelming majority of them were true social democrats who were just keen to see their Labour back. And here we are. We are in this position now where the Parliamentary Labour Party sits out here to the right of the core of the Labour Party. And that is where all of Corbyn's problems seem to be coming from. What does this mean for the future? Well, the most likely outcome I see is that this bit is going to be breaking off, and we're going to have the SDP2, the right wing of the Labour Party decoupling and splitting off to form a new union. That's assuming that this guy lasts much longer. Even if he doesn't, given the structure of the electoral system, given the weight of numbers down here, I wonder whether or not the grassroots will be prepared to put their faith in the old Blairite officer corps. They may not, but I think it's much more likely that we see some sort of split in the Labour Party. Maybe it's not more likely, but it's certainly not to be discounted. It wouldn't surprise me at all if we saw the Labour Party split and the right wing slide off, leaving the left wing to basically represent the Social Democrats. And that's it. Watch this space. We'll find out how it spins. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment box. I would love to hear from you. Otherwise, enjoy politics. Bye for now.